This is KGW News at noon.
Welcome to the News at Noon. I'm Drew Carney, and we start today with a breaking news story. Highway 6 is closed right now in both directions because of a crash involving a school bus and a semi-truck. So here's a look at the front page of the Nestucca School District's website. The district says the students in that bus were actually on their way to a field trip. Forest Grove Fire says at least 4 people were hurt, and the district says some adults and kids wound up going to the hospital. So we can show you on this map, that closure is near milepost 32, which is about 7 miles west of Glenwood. Crews are working right now to get Highway 6 back open, but right now you can definitely expect delays in that area.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Today's top national headline was written less than 2 hours ago when a jury decided the fate of Kyle Rittenhouse. After nearly 4 days of deliberations, jurors found Rittenhouse not guilty on all the counts he was facing. Rittenhouse argued that he acted in self-defense last year when he shot and killed 2 men and injured a third. Those shootings took place during protests over police violence against black people in the summer of 2020. Rittenhouse was charged with homicide, attempted homicide, and recklessly endangering safety. But again, he was found not guilty today on all of those counts. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, the court of public opinion weighed in on the verdict.
It validates that we have a Second Amendment right to defend ourselves and protect ourselves.
There's no way that you can justify in the streets of America that an individual can carry an automatic weapon, an AR-15, and shoot and kill anybody under any reason.
Wisconsin's governor deployed 500 National Guard troops in anticipation of post-verdict protests. All right, back to our local headlines now. We talked to a pair of school psychologists from 2 of Oregon's largest school districts about violence in local schools this year. What they told us was they are definitely seeing more fights and more violent outbursts from students. We're talking about incidents like the one you see behind me. So this fight was between students at a middle school in the Salem-Keizer School District. But those 2 psychologists told us that the problem certainly is by no means isolated to one school or one district. In fact, teachers and counselors are seeing this at schools all across the state.
We're definitely seeing a lot of that just extreme, aggressive behavior. And it's not just the young kids, it's, middle school, high school.
I'm seeing a huge increase in social emotional needs.
Educators say that schools need more money to hire counselors and social workers. Teachers also say they need more time and support systems in place to deal with the emotional needs of students who are still coping with the effects of the pandemic. There is a resource, though, for students who feel threatened at school. That resource is called the Safe Oregon program, and it lets kids report safety concerns confidentially. KGW's Alma McCarty spoke with Oregon State Police, which manages that program.
Whether it's a funny feeling, a reason to think twice, or something outwardly concerning, students at most schools across Oregon have a place to go to report it.
Some of the tips that we receive they'll even include language that, I don't know if this is serious or not, in the student's own words. And it's, oftentimes about friends or students that they see and they are concerned about.
Coral Smith with Oregon State Police, the agency that manages Safe Oregon, says so far this year, the program's received 469 tips.
28% of them are tips of bullying or harassment, which includes the cyberbullying online. Now that social media is more prevalent than it was in 2017, we see more tips of, screenshots of things like Snapchat and TikTok and, other ways that children are communicating with each other.
Fights or threats of violence, she reports, are only slightly up since September 1st of this year when compared to spring 2021.
We have seen a decrease from the last school year that was remote, a decrease in tips of suicidal ideation and self-harm. And so that is really good news. Students returning to school, getting more socialization.
With that return to school, what they're pushing now is awareness, letting more families know this tool is out there and it works. The fear of retaliation taken out with an anonymous option.
There have been multiple instances that we have been able to save lives just by information of, concerned friends or students that, may see or hear something.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Well, you may have noticed the ODOT message boards that are set up right now along local roads and freeways telling drivers to move over for roadside workers. Chris McGinnis has more for us this afternoon on that urgency behind the message, and he also has an update for us on the ODOT maintenance worker who was critically injured while doing his job last week.
A typical month-long safety campaign in May got an urgent rebroadcast today.
Our worker was critically injured. He's gone through several different surgeries since November 10th when this happened. He lost his leg.
OSP identified 38-year-old Grant Riedel as the ODOT maintenance worker severely injured by a passing car. He was clearing storm drains on I-205 near Clackamas last week.
I'm very friendly, very outgoing, and one of the guys that you want beside you to have everything safe around you, especially when you're out on the highway.
The driver stayed at the scene and is cooperating in the investigation.
This guy was part of the maintenance crew in Milwaukee. They're the ones who came up with this idea, and that's why we're seeing these signs all throughout the Portland area all day Thursday.
Oregon's Move Over law requires drivers to move over or slow down to 5 miles per hour below the speed limit for essentially all stopped vehicles on the road. Locally and nationally, work zone crashes and fatalities are on the rise. In 2019, 135 workers were killed in work zone crashes across the U.S., the majority of these happening on roads with higher speed limits like freeways and arterials. Traffic fines double in work zones. A speeding ticket for 11 to 20 miles per hour over in a work zone will cost you $525.
We're trying to make sure the public knows these are real people out there. We've got to get them home safely at night.
In a recent 5-year study, ODOT says on average 5 people die in work zone crashes on state roads every year. 27 are seriously injured.
Every crew that experiences an injury like this goes through a lot of trauma.
OHSU tells us that Grant Riedel is still in critical condition. The maintenance worker has been with the Oregon Department of Transportation for 15 years. Chris McGinnis, KGW News.
All right, before we check in with Rod Hill, we want you to check this out. A lunar eclipse happened last night, although we didn't really get to see it around here. But, want to chime in on this, Ron?
Well, we saw the total part where you didn't get to see any of the moon. We saw that part.
Other people in other parts of the country did see the lunar eclipse. So this video is from LA. This lunar eclipse lasted 3 hours and 28 minutes, which makes it, Rodney, the longest lunar eclipse in almost 600 years.
Which means the show was more spectacular in length than it normally is, and unfortunately what I was alluding to. Of course, we didn't see any moon. We didn't see anything with the clouds and the rain.
Yeah, we had the shortest spectacle you could possibly have, 0 minutes and 0 seconds.
Yes, we did. The rain has stopped here on the west side of our state, at least up and down I-5 and over at the coast. So that stopped in the 8 o'clock hour this morning. For the most part, we still have the rain out in Pendleton, some snow depending on elevation out in the Blue Mountains. That's still pretty hefty moisture here. And you're starting to see the precip rates, which aren't heavy, they're light, but starting to see that start to even taper off a little bit over the Cascades. So here's a closer look at the radar. Again, that's going to be with us throughout a good chunk of the afternoon, but it will continue to kind of break up. All right, what about sun? Well, Astoria at times has had a good bit of sunshine. This is a view from up at the Astoria column, looking out over the water there, partly cloudy skies. Cannon Beach starting to open up at times, a little blue sky, but, well, you can see just a sliver right there over Haystack Rock, right? 51 degrees. Temperatures aren't bad. Winds are from the northwest of 5. The easterlies are completely gone. Here's downtown Portland. So far, no sun for us. We're at 50 degrees. We will be dry. I'm going to assume eventually we get some sun. I don't know how much. Temperature is fairly steady, 53 at 4 p.m. We will go into a completely dry weekend. I'll have that forecast for you with the 7-day showing Thanksgiving Day coming up.